Welcome to my review of Delta Airlines Delta One Suite, and welcome to US Virgin Islands. Yes, I'm walking to the airport now. Yes, it saves me $3. And I'm really excited to try out Delta Airlines business class. I hope that it measures up with all the other airlines in this competitive route.
Spoiler alert, it didn't, and you will quickly see why. I waltzed into the open-air check-in hall, and within minutes, I obtained my business class boarding pass all the way to Budapest in Hungary. As I proceeded through the security check, I found out that Delta Airlines put a lot of effort into making sure that their customers feel special. There is a special lane for all of the Delta passengers regardless of class of service, and they even put up a lot of signs to thank you for flying with them. And inside the security area, you can also find a lot of banners and propaganda advertising their service. And it clearly shows that they are trying to put much more effort into US Virgin Islands than all of their competitors. However, sadly, the entire terminal features no lounge, and the only option for me was either to sit at the benches or go into the rum tasting room. Luckily, I arrived late enough so I did not waste too much time sitting around waiting for boarding to happen, and I quickly approached the 757-300 that was about to take me to Atlanta. As I settled down into my seat 5A, I found the legroom to be perfectly acceptable for this mid-haul flight, and the offering of a nice touchscreen in-flight entertainment system and an individual power socket only adds on top of the advantage Delta offers compared to its competitors' narrow-body airplane that barely feature anything. But this flight is only the appetizer to my main flight across the Atlantic Ocean, so let's quickly get to rolling. As I slowly admired the sunset towards the west, I was served the in-flight box meal for this short flight. It is some kind of fried vegetable with tofu, coupled with some form of packaged peas. It is not exactly the most delicious meal, so I promptly finished it, forgot about it, and proceeded to the bathroom. The Delta bathroom decoration for 757-300 was perfectly fine, with nothing special offered in business class other than some small amenities. But my favorite part is the exposed circuit of the flushing button for the toilets. I doubt that you'll get shocked by simply pressing these buttons, but I still decided to put my body onto the test. Quickly, we were descending through the clouds into the darkness, and the city lights of Atlanta were beneath us. And there is no time to waste. It is time to check out Delta Airlines Fortress Hub and what they can offer as their best effort in lounges in North America. The lounge they offer in the biggest terminal is absolutely massive. On the first floor, you'll find the buffet spread. Not only does it contain a fully equipped coffee machine along with other kinds of hot drinks including tea and others, it also has a myriad of cold drinks, ranging from flavored water to the local favorite sweet iced tea. While there is also a bar, the free drink selection you can see here on the menu is not exactly the widest. And on the other side of the menu, you can see that all of these drinks are actually available for purchase either in dollars or in miles. Continue to the buffet section, you can see a very healthy spread of all kinds of items, ranging from bread and naan to cheese plates and sausages, all the way into a few selections of hot items, such as some hot soup, southern-style pulled pork, the classic American junk food mac and cheese, and the healthier string beans. But the most impressive sight at night has to be the outside balcony. You can easily grab some food and exit through a door, and you will be out in the open air with your lungs infused with fresh jet fuel. However, the lounge was jam-packed for all of the flights that are about to depart for late night in order to cross the Atlantic into Europe. So I had to ascend the stairs into the second floor and look for a place to sit down. My flight was the absolute last one to depart from the terminal, so I had all of the times I need in order to enjoy all of the mediocre food. And I have to tell you, the buffet spread may look nice. The food quality is equivalent to your local Golden Corral that you would only go to if you forgot about your third niece's birthday 3 hours before it's supposed to happen. And that is completely par for the course since Delta is just one of the biggest US airlines, so the bar cannot be set for too high. However, as I thought that this journey would be so eventless that will affect my click-through rate on the YouTube video, Delta decided to help me out with a very unpleasant surprise.
Well, nothing beats being kicked out of the SkyClub 1.5 hours before my flight departs. I know they put it pretty razor thin, right? The last flight departs from this terminal is around 11:15 p.m. So technically you should be heading to the gate by now, by 10 p.m., right? So they close it down. But my flight departs at 11 and it got delayed for 40 minutes. So yeah, I'm just gonna chill in this non-descriptive food court. Good job, Delta. You can just open it for 30 extra minutes when you know the flight is gonna be delayed like hours in advance, right?
After sitting in the empty food court like a plebeian for the rest of the hour, I moved to the boarding gate and found out that it was completely jam-packed. So I had to stand around like an idiot for another solid half an hour, completely giving me enough time to think how Delta could have done better. And when boarding finally commenced after midnight, I snoozed my way past the jet bridge and onto the A330-300. After making the iconic left turn, I was in this rather dated business class cabin. And here it is, my home for the next 8 hours. Seat 6A. This is a typical reverse herringbone seat installed in the early 2010s, and you can definitely see its age reflected in the material as well as the screen. To the left of me, enclosed by a noise-cancelling headphone, is the reading light. You can press to open it, and it is very adjustable in position. As you move towards main console, you can also find all kinds of power adapter as well as the headphone jack. Underneath the table surface, you can find a button where you can push in order to open the tray table. Back in the good old days of 2011, material science and seat ergonomics was not that advanced, so the table pops up in this weird triangular shape and you have to open about a quarter of it in order to form a proper tray table. And you can clearly see it is definitely smaller than most of the modern designs. As you move forward towards the ottoman and the foot space, I found out that the footwell was perfectly acceptable and relatively large. It must have been an impressive feat back in the days. And moving up top, next to the entertainment controlling console, you can pop open the entertainment screen by pushing the button. And we will talk about the quality of the screen in a later part of this video. As we move down, you can also see the magazine rack that was surprisingly empty. There's also a small stepping cubby next to the aisle. I presume it is for people who are too short to access the overhead bins. To the right side of me is an adjustable handrest. You can push a button and it will automatically pop up, like many of the reverse herringbone designs. However, as I started to take a closer look of the seat, I quickly found out that almost all of these things are showing its age and are not well maintained. For example, if you take a look of the tray table, you'll find that there are a lot of scratch marks as well as damages to people who have not been stowing it properly in the past decade. And as you move down beneath the seating mechanism, you'll find a thick layer of dust as well as food scraps have been accumulating for God knows how long. And since the seat motor was not smart enough to stop whenever it hits an obstacle, the underside of the center console sees significant damage for people who have been jamming their seats with perhaps suitcases and shoes. Although the plastic had been broken and significant renovation was direly needed. And now that the seat tour is over, let's take a look of the Amenity Kit. The Delta Business Class Amenity Kit is provided by Toomey in a stylish black nylon kit. The inside contents are rather mundane, ranging from a collection of the lip balm, facial mist, and a simple dental kit, all the way into a pair of decompression socks and earplugs. There's nothing special among them, except maybe the Toomey branded eye shades. And now onto the Inflight entertainment system. The screen was clearly showing its age, even struggling to display the safety instruction video. You can clearly see the granulated display, as if it was playing from a YouTube video from 1965 on a T85 calculator. The touch response was not particularly sharp, and the controller was clearly older than most of the kids watching TikTok these days. So as a result, I decided to not watch any movie on this garbage system, and instead opted for some rather interesting wordplay games. Now finally, all of these ground issues are over, we pushed back and got ready for departure. After takeoff, the in-flight service quickly began, until I realized there's no menu inside. Instead, I was presented by the air hostess with this. Yes, due to some bizarre regulation by Delta Airlines at the time, the crew was not given any printed menu to present to the passengers. Instead, they are supposed to dictate the options to the passenger like my middle school English teacher, and somehow managed to complete all of the ordering immediately. Luckily, the purser of the flight decided to write down all of the options on a piece of paper, and I quickly took a picture of this makeshift menu in order to decide later. However, little did I know this will cause a lot of trouble later in the flight. I eventually decided to get a short rib, and I was presented with this meal. Honestly, it is not that bad, and I would even dare to say it is pretty pleasant. All of the dishes are beautifully presented in one tray, and I definitely have seen worse cutleries in my career. It is just a shame that everything comes in one tray instead of a proper dining service. And I have to especially praise the gelato dessert, as it is one of the best ice cream I have ever had in my life. So bravo Delta team on your catering, but let me tell you, it is all gonna go downhill from here. Upon the conclusion of the meal, I paid a quick visit to the bathroom, which is exactly identical to the one I have visited before. So there's really no need for the signature bathroom review all over again. So I returned to my seat, started turning my seat into a lie-flat bed, and promptly fell asleep due to the fact that my flight was delayed so severely it was already 2 a.m. And another reason that kept me asleep for so long was because of the fact that Wi-Fi is not free for business class passengers. Everyone gets free messaging service over the Wi-Fi during the entire flight, but if you are a customer of specific carriers in the United States, you also get free Wi-Fi for your entire journey. But sadly, the rest of us have to fork out more than $20 in order to enjoy Wi-Fi for the rest of the flight. So it was reasonable that snoozing was a much more preferable option. I woke up next morning just to be quickly presented with a breakfast. The first thing that fell into my eyes is this fruit plate. Can you see it? Yes, in the middle of the kiwi, there is an eyelash. So I was very shocked to discover that my breakfast had a little bit extra protein, and I promptly decided that maybe it is time to skip breakfast. And if you think that this might be the lowest point of my journey, you're in for quite of a surprise. Remember the photo of the menu I took just before ordering dinner? Well, the purser was ready to pounce onto me when he realized that I was awake. And he quickly came to me and confronted me about the fact that if I took a picture of the quote-unquote menu earlier in the flight. And upon hearing that I actually did, his attitude quickly turned into a mixture of hostile and fear. He explained to me that he wrote this menu on his own volition and it is technically against the rule of the airline, as Delta strictly prohibited them from handing anything made of paper to the passengers, which is under the rule of coronavirus prevention. While I was completely caught off guard because they have been handling my food for the entire flight, but they are somehow unable to handle one piece of paper because of this virus, the purser quickly explained to me that if I ever publish this online, not only will he suffer a severe internal punishment, including getting fired, I might also get myself into some kind of trouble. While I do not believe Delta's union are this weak, or I will suffer any consequence from publishing this video, out of respect, I decided to publish this video way later after Delta has completely changed its coronavirus policy. I hope by doing so, nobody will suffer any consequence from this unbelievable mistake. I know this purser is doing this purely out of assistance for the passengers, but Delta Airlines' policy is absolutely unreasonable, and now looking back, it is almost comical. All of the air hostesses handle more than just our drinks and food. What is the difference a piece of paper can possibly make? But because I took a picture, it could potentially threaten his livelihood? I don't know which side is to blame more, but I sincerely hope Delta Airlines can change its policy, and also the purser can start by apologizing instead of threatening me. In this case, I am very disappointed with both of these parties, and I cannot possibly believe these ridiculous rules can still be effective nowadays. And on this disappointing note, let's give Delta Airlines the grading it deserves. For the A330-300 business class, the ground experience at Atlanta is relatively mediocre. The lounge itself is well appointed and relatively large, but the fact that I got kicked out more than 1.5 hours before the flight departure time just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. So it gets a middling 33 out of 70. As for the seats, the reverse herringbone seat is the industry gold standard, but all of the seat structures, dirty nooks and crannies, and just the general outdated controls resulted in a 38 out of 70. And now moving on to the amenities, Delta has a pretty bare-bone amenity kit, and there is no special gift for the passengers like KLM, so it gets a 35 out of 70. Moving on to the food and drink, while the dinner was surprisingly good, The breakfast with the extra eyelash as the condiment was definitely a low light of the entire flight, so there is no way I'm gonna give it more than a 27. And now onto service. I know the purser came from a very well-intentioned mind, and I definitely had to thank him for writing up the menu, but the general attitude, or perhaps the fact that Delta forced him to have this kind of attitude, is completely unacceptable. The fact that he had to be very confrontational with a passenger just because of a ridiculous company policy makes me feel like I'm flying with a clown show. So it gets a 17 out of 70. And finally, onto the value. For this flight, I barely paid $350. If you want to know the details, you can check out my KLM business class flight review linked on the top right. But in normal circumstances, Delta is mostly in the middle of the pack when it comes to price tags. So I cannot give it more than a 48. So the final total of the previous 6 categories comes to a very disappointing 198 out of 420. And this is no surprise, given the fact that Delta almost failed in every single regard. And I genuinely hope that this is just a one-off fluke, because I have always heard the praises when it comes to their service as well as hard product. So hopefully on my next flight, this opinion can be challenged. And now wrapping everything up, we are getting very close to Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. And as we are slowly descending, I decided to fold up the wacky tray table and buckle up my seatbelt. And let's just try to enjoy our landing into Paris Airport 2.5 hours late. This is it for my Delta Airlines A330-300 business class review. I would like to continue with my connection onto Budapest, but I was unfortunately delayed so much that I completely missed my Air France flight to Hungary. So I instead got reassigned to a flight nearly 7 hours later, and I had more than enough time to check out Air France's business class lounge in one of their best terminals. So if you want to follow me into the next part where I review Air France's 2E terminal business class lounge, feel free to click the like button beneath me as well as the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next part to see if Air France manages to save the day. And if you want to directly skip to the destination, here's the video I made from my favorite European city, Budapest, or if you want to continue to the north, here is my adventure in Riga, Latvia.